Hear me out. Hear me out. What if the books needed me? You say book buying, I say book rescuing. If y'all been following along, this is the final installment of that massive book haul that I told y'all about. This is it. This is it. This is it. Now, here's a disclaimer. I have tried to record this video a few times. Each time ended in a fail, but my husband told me, no matter how many times you fall, you need to get back up. So that's why I'm here re-recording this yet again. If you see some books in here that you've already seen, sorry y'all, I did the best I could to pick out the ones that I don't think that I included in the earlier ones. Let's just jump into it. We start with David Ritt's Divided Soul, The Life of Marvin Gaye. I've already posted a review of this. I'll try to link it, but yeah, I bought it and read it on my Kindle, but I wanted to own it for my shelves. So here it is. And I don't buy every single book that I read on my Kindle for the house. I bought this one in particular because it was one of my favorite memoirs that I read in 2024, so I wanted to bring it home. It's a lot of gems in here. My favorite part is how it talks about like the duology or dichotomy of a person, of a human, how you can have contradictions within yourself, two sides to you that pull and tug, and hopefully you win the battle, but sometimes you don't. So that's book one. And then you know what? Let me count these real quick. It's 45. Okay, good nice number, 45. Anyways, that's book number one, Divided Soul by David Ritt. Next, we have the autobiography of Gucci Mane. I read this a few years ago. I don't know if I read it with my husband, but I read it a few years ago. And when we moved, you'll hear that about quite a bit of these books. But when we moved, I got rid of almost all of my books. I only kept some that I really, really liked. And I got rid of this one. But, like, I was thinking about it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do want it. And I found it on sale. So, bam, here it is, the autobiography of Gucci Mane. It's a really good book if you haven't read it. Okay, two memoirs. Look, we're going strong. Baby Girl by, better known as Aaliyah by Kathy Ayandali. I hope I'm saying that right, but I just recently read this. I started it in January and finished it in February. Haven't put up a review yet, but this is a really good book. I appreciated the amount of respect that this author used when she wrote this book. Because you don't get that in every single biography. But I appreciated that. She really highlighted her entire story and not just the parts that involved R. Kelly. So I was super excited about that. That's why I had to get this book. Look, y'all. 3. Okay. I'm working on making my videos more concise, so bear with me. It's a Cosby the Darkest Prayer. Already recorded a review for this video. But I didn't have a physical copy. So I read these on my Kindle and I purchased all of the other ones, but this is the only one I didn't have. So I wanted to add it because what I look like having all the other ones and not this one. Next, another biography. This memoir actually made my top 15 reads of 2024. So obviously I wanted it for my shelf. That's Viola Davis, Finding Me. This book, this was the best memoir that I read of 2024. I feel like it was really powerful, really vulnerable. A lot of it you can relate to. What I like the most about it, though, is I feel like she did a really good job of representing and explaining her parents, like the good and the bad. She did it with respect, but she also was very, very honest with how she portrayed them. And I feel like that's really a hard balance to strike, and she did a good job with that. And then you got to understand why she made some of the decisions she made. So look at little Viola. Finding Me. Next, we have The Color Purple. I've read this a few times by Alice Walker. The first time I read this, I was 12, and my aunt used to keep stuff hidden in her closet or whatever. And books used to be one of the things because it was supposed to be books I couldn't read. So The Color Purple, The Coldest Winter Ever, Zane books, Eric Jerome Dickey, stuff like that. So I went in her closet and read this when I was 12 with a flashlight. That was the first time I read it. Seen the movie a few times, and I read this again maybe 5 or 6 years ago. but I didn't have a copy for my shelf because I read it from the, like, I checked it out from the library. So now I have my own. This is the actual like edition that I was sneaking and reading when I was 12. So it's cool to have it on my shelf. Pretty nostalgic. Yeah. Next, we have New Cowboy Poetry, a contemporary gathering. Um, this was just cute. I like poetry, but I don't have a lot of poetry books, and this was like a super cute short read. Um, Very like Western. I thought it was really cute. I picked up this and read one of the poems. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that. So it's pretty cute. They're edited by Hal Hannon, but every poem in here is written by a different author. So it's pretty cool. Nice artwork in here. Birth of a Native Texan. No wrangling in here. So I feel like I'm gonna really enjoy getting through this book, this collection of poetry. Okay, one stack down. Look at me. The Black of the Berry by Wallace Thurman. This is a classic. I think it was released, it's in 1929? Yeah, published in 1929. This is a book that I wanted to read for a while. I've never read this actually. Yeah, I've never read this book. I want to read it. Just real quick, I'm gonna tell you a little bit what it's about. It's about Emma Lou, who is very black. She's too black for her own comfort, and I guess she must face her darkest self in order to survive. For the black is truth, if not beauty, and it's her only hope. It's a book that exemplifies the black self-hate documented by Greer and Cobbs in their contemporary sociological masterpiece, Black Rage. I'm excited to read this. I've only heard good things about this from the people that I've seen review it. And it's people that I pretty much trust their opinions on this type of book, so I'm excited to read that. Y'all, we one stack down. I'm doing better than I thought. I didn't believe I could do it. Next, we have The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. This is a book, is pretty much about redlining and how they impose racial segregation in the United States, especially around big metros. I'm excited to read this. It's a nonfiction book. I mean, obviously, I've learned about this in history classes, but I've never read a book that's actually like dedicated to this. So I'm excited to read it. Heard good things about it. Yeah. We also have Lose Your Mother, A Journey Along the Atlantic Slave Route by Sadia Hartman. This book follows her journey, observations, feelings as she goes through a slave route through Ghana. A very emotional read. I actually have this on my Kindle. I started it, but I didn't finish it. I started it in 2024. So this year I plan on finishing it. It was a lot at the time, and I know it's going to be a lot anytime that I read it, but this year I have a little more time on my hands, so I should be able to get through this year. And let me know if y'all read any of these. Okay, we got a classic, East of Eden by John Steinbeck. So I read Grapes of Wrath, and I've never read this, but when I read Grapes of Wrath, it was like 12 years ago, so I might just reread that before I read East of Eden. But a lot of people say that they prefer East of Eden over Grapes of Wrath. So I'm excited to see. That's kind of why I want to read them back to back to see what I think about it. I'm pretty sure this is like a retelling of Cain and Abel and Adam and Eve. Let me see. This reenacts the fall of Adam and Eve and the poisonous rivalry of Cain and Abel. Yeah. He created his most mesmerizing characters and explored his most enduring themes: the mystery of identity, the inexplicable, I can't talk, love, and the murderous consequence of love's absence. Yeah, I'm excited to read this. I like stuff like this, so very excited to read that. This actually made a lot of people's top list for 2024 too. Okay. We have Black America series, Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm excited to read this because me and my husband are from North Carolina, and I thought this was so cool to have like a history of the black people in Charlotte. Can't wait to read this and talk to my husband about it, see if he knew some of the stuff that I learned in it. And in the same breath, because I got that, I wanted to get the one in Winston-Salem. This one isn't Black America, it's just the city in general. And that's Winston-Salem, North Carolina. But it's so cool to see like what the streets look like then versus how they look like when I was growing up, and just compare it, like going down memory lane almost. Then I'll be able to like, my daddy ain't really talking to me, but I'll be able to ask him like, hey, you remember when this was this and this looked like that, and kind of seeing him pictures of some of the stuff that I'm reading in here. So very excited to get through that. Okay, next we have the graphic novel adaptation of Parable of the Sower. So for the book Advent Challenge, my husband got me the graphic novel adaptation of Kindred. And so I wanted to get this one because I read Kindred and then I had a graphic novel adaptation. I read Parable of the Sower in 2024 and I wanted the graphic novel adaptation. And look how beautiful, y'all. Look. Let me show you some of the artwork. It's gorgeous. But y'all already knew that. Just gorgeous. So that's that. They also have Parable of the Tenants Talents coming out in 2025. I'm gonna try to grab that one too. Can't believe I'm moving this fast. I'm low-key proud. We have Asada, the autobiography of Asada, written by her. To be fair, I haven't read this all the way through. I've read bits and pieces, like chunks at a time. So I was like, girl, what are you doing? This, like, how have you not read this all the way through? And when I say bits and pieces, I probably have read maybe like 50% of this in chunks, but I haven't read it straight through. So it's a priority this year because, like, I feel like this is one of the books that you have to read. It's an important read, and I'm gonna read it. Okay, next we have All About Love by Bell Hooks. This was actually recommended to me by my friend, like in real life, and so I'm like, yeah, I'll read it. So this is going to the front of the list, probably in the top 3 of this entire list that I'll be reading because I want to tell her what I think about it. I've read other books by Bell Hooks, just not this one. So I will be getting through that. Let me see. The acclaimed first volume in her love song to the nation. Bell Hooks using her incisive mind and razor sharp pen to explore the question, what is love? Her answers strike at both the mind and the heart. In 13 concise chapters, Hooks examines her own search for emotional connection and society's failure to provide a model for learning to love. This sounds good. So yeah. Okay, next we have The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee. I actually read this book in 2019, or was it 2020? Either 2020 or 2019. I can't quite remember, but I did read it then and I enjoyed it, but there was a lot going on at that time, so I don't feel like I retained it as well as I wanted to. Like I said, I'm in a better space now, so I'm gonna reread this because this is another important read that I feel like I want to be able to like comment on or like put my 2 cents in when this book comes up. So yeah, let me give you a little thing. Let's see. Dan Friedman, the Spook by the Door, is enlisted in the CIA's elitist espionage program. Upon mastering agency tactics, however, he drops out to train young Chicago blacks as freedom fighters. His story, one black man's reaction to ruling class hypocrisy. Yeah, so he enlisted, then decided to drop out and teach everything that he was learning from the government to young black men in Chicago. So excited to read that. Next, we have the debut memoir of Maya Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I feel like I've talked about this actually. Yeah, I just want to show it, but yeah, it's beautiful, right? This isn't the cover. Maybe it is the cover that I used to have, but I already told y'all about this one. This is in the list. Then we have Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. I hope I'm saying that last name right. This is a book, I haven't read this at all actually. It's been on my TBR for like years, but I haven't actually read it. So I decided, obviously when I was in the mood to buy books, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely buying that because I'm gonna read it. Never read it before, but yeah, it says in the 16th century, the beginning of African enslavement in the Americas until the ratification of the 13th Amendment and emancipation in 1865, Africans were hunted like animals, sold, captured, tortured, and raped. They experienced the worst kind of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual abuse. Given such history, isn't it likely that many of the enslaved were severely traumatized, and that the trauma and the effects of such horrific abuse end with the abolition of slavery? So yeah, another non-fiction book. Very excited about. Okay. Then we have the autobiography of the ex-colored man. I actually have this on my Kindle, and I read about 50% of it. It's a quick read. It's only 158 pages, but I didn't finish it. I am going to finish it because, like I said, it's a quick read. This is actually an ex-library book from Boston Public Library. But yeah, very excited to read this. This was written by the first black executive secretary of the NAACP. It is a turn of the century book that anticipates the social realism of the Harlem Renaissance writers. Very excited about this. Let me know if y'all read this. I feel like a lot of people have read this, and I'm late to the party. I read half, if that counts for anything, but let me know. Keeping on with the theme, we have The Life of Josiah Henson by Josiah Henson. This is basically, he was born into slavery in Maryland, and it talks about how he escaped and his life after freedom. Very excited about that. Super thin. Should be able to get through it pretty quickly. Then we have A Gathering of Old Men. This was actually recommended to me on Instagram when I shared my review of Stephen King's Insomnia, and I stated like I like reading books with elderly protagonists. Like I like the elderly in real life. I like reading about them, books that are centered around them, and ask for recommendations. And somebody recommended this book to me, so I grabbed it. Very excited to read it. It has a really small synopsis that I'm gonna read. Very small, like literally. Set on the Louisiana sugarcane plantation in the 1970s, A Gathering of Old Men is a powerful depiction of racial tensions arising over the death of a Cajun farmer at the hands of a black man. I already know I'm gonna like this. I can't even tell you how I know I'm gonna like it. You know how sometimes it's kind of like movies and TV shows. Sometimes you're surprised. Sometimes you like, I could like it, I could not. And sometimes you just know, like, that's right up my alley. And I feel like this is right up my alley. I've read A Lesson Before Dying by him, so I already know I like his writing style. So yeah, I already know I'm gonna like this. If I don't like this, I'll be shocked. But I'll share it here, whether I like it or not. Okay, the last one in the second stack, we have Seeing Judah First, The Erased Life of an Enslaved Soul by Brian C. Johnson. Very excited to read this. It sounds interesting. I feel like, how did I find this book? I have the Kindle version of this too, but initially I think I found it from a Facebook group, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's just basically talking about the people, or this girl, just like a lot of other enslaved people at the time, were pretty much erased from history. Like it was no record if they were born, no record of what they did, their accomplishments, what they contributed. And I'm assuming that's what this book is highlighting with Judah. So, okay, third stack. I'm flying through these books. Half the Sky, Turning Oppression into Opportunity for Women Worldwide. This is by Nicholas D. Kristof and Cheryl Woodon. This is a book that I read my freshman year in college. It was an assigned reading for one of my classes, and they had the authors come to the school for like a Q&A. It was super cool. I was all over this book, okay? All over this book. But, like I said, I actually didn't get us away. I don't know what happened to this book. There's times where I'm like, I know I used to have this book. Obviously, I bought it for school, but I know I didn't give it away. And I was moving so much. I'm like, was I like losing full boxes of books? Because I didn't get us away. I didn't donate it. I didn't sell it. Yet I don't, like, it's nowhere to be found. I think when I moved, like, whole boxes go missing. But anyways, this is a really good book. This opened up my eyes to like oppression on a worldwide level. Like it's easy for me, not easy, but it's familiar for me to talk about what's going on in the United States. But up until I read this, I wasn't really thinking about how what was going on worldwide affected what was going on in the United States. Like I always kept them separate. Like, yeah, I know worldwide oppression and then USA oppression. But this really like created that bridge for me. And I'm mad I didn't have it. So got it again. Okay, I'm halfway through. I'm so proud. It's been taking me 98 minutes. Next, we have Parable of the Soul by Octavia E. Butler. I read this book last year, but on my Kindle, and I wanted the physical version. Bam, here it is. Look at how beautiful this cover is. It's a little, look at how beautiful it is. Yeah. I already have a review posted of this, but it basically follows the main character through, like, I think it's set in 2024, actually, yeah. And it follows the main character through what is left of the U.S. She is trekking from one place in the U.S. to another when it's pure chaos. And it talks about that journey. It talks about religion or forming one. It talks about theology in a very creative way. Talks about just a lot of different things, and I liked it enough to be like, yeah, I'm gonna get it because I'm the show. Next, we have I Was Anastasia by Ariel Lahan. They wrong for how they packaged this book and sent it to me. Anyways, this is the first book that I joined the book club in 2024, and this was the first read of that book club. It follows Anastasia Romanov and the Romanov Empire in Russia. Very interesting. This has like a dual POV, a present day. Neither of them are present day, but one is more present than the other. But they're both, it's historical fiction, but there are two POVs. Very interesting. It was a creative way of how they kind of came together. I feel like this book is written very interesting. And then again, it was the first book that we read in the book club, so I wanted to grab it. They went on for that stuff. Okay, next we have Perfect Peace by Daniel Black. I've already talked about this book. This book was great. It was great. I read it in 2024. This book really made me think, if nothing else, one, it was wild. It was, 2% in, the book was crazy. But it made me think about, like, being a parent and being cognizant of, like, you're so sure that you're doing the right thing for yourself and your kids, but being mindful to, like, still be grounded to reality and look at, is what you're doing really what's best for your kids, or are you just, like, delusional? It's a really good book. I do have Don't Cry for Me and Isaac Song, but I haven't read those yet. Plan on reading them this year. But I like Daniel Black. I like how he wrote this book. I'm excited to read those too. But yeah. Okay, next we have The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. Read this book last year, thought it was great. This was a historical fiction with some magical realism in it. Very interesting. It does have like a little romance sprinkled in there, But I like this book because it was a book that was very much centered, like the plot was very much centered around books. I just thought that was interesting and cool. Like it was set in I don't want to get too much away, but it was interesting. Historical fiction, magical realism, literary fiction. It's all smashed in here. Good book. I think I rated 4-star. Next we have Coming of Age in Mississippi by Anne Moody. I read this book years ago. Again, I feel like this was in the same box with this. I don't know where my books go, but we were moving a lot at that time. This was a really good book. I love coming of age stories. This one was really good. It was set in the South, I think in the 50s. Let me see. I feel like it's the 50s. I could be wrong though. Let me see. Whatever. It was set in the South during the time where it's like racism, segregation, all of that. But it talks about how this main character is like viewing the world. You can kind of see the different ways that people view it, like the different generations at that time. Still feel like this book is super relevant today. So yeah. It is set in the 40s and the 50s, y'all. That was gonna bother me if I didn't know. Got a classic, a must read, the autobiography of Malcolm X as told to by Alex Haley. I've read this book a few times, seen this movie more times than I want to admit. This is a really good book. This book and it's another book too. Oh yeah, it was Think and Grow Rich. This book and Think and Grow Rich I actually gave away to somebody that came to our house because it was a guy who never read him and he wanted to. So I'm like, yeah, take that copy. But obviously I need to get another copy, so and that was like 2 years ago, and I'm just not getting another one. But yeah, important read, very important read. Pretty sure these two I've previously talked about. I'm just not remembering that. But this one, it doesn't have a synopsis on it at all, and I didn't look it up. I could go look it up, but I'm not. I feel like if it doesn't have a synopsis, I'm just gonna go in blind. Yeah, it was a part of Oprah's book club, so I'm going in blind. And this one is talking about it's Talking Leaves by Joseph Bruchac. It's just talking about a boy's journey of learning the Cherokee language and how language is formed. Very excited to read this because I'm gonna read it with my kid. Then we have The Delectable Negro, Human Consumption and Eroticism Within U.S. Slave Culture by Vincent Woodard. This book, I initially saw it on Facebook. It's like a Facebook group we have with some gems in it. I initially saw it on there and the title intrigued me. And then when I went and I read the blurb, which I can read a portion of, I'm not gonna read too much. I really wanted to get it. This is scholars of U.S. and transatlantic slavery have largely ignored and dismissed accusations that Black Americans were cannibalized. Vincent Woodard takes the enslaved person's claims of human consumption seriously, focusing on both the literal starvation of the slave and the tropes of cannibalism on the part of the slaveholder, and further draws attention to the ways in which blacks experience their consumption as fundamentally an occurrence. What else is there to say? I'm gonna read this. I know it's probably gonna be a tough read, but I wanted to get it and read it, so that's why I have that. Next, we have 400 Souls and a Community History of African America, 1619 through 2019. I was really excited to get this, and I've had this on my TBR for a few months now. But I got it. I'm excited to read it. What I'm most excited about is it's a pretty comprehensive history. Like most things that I read that's like a deep dive or a deep study is very periodic. So I'm excited to see that this spans hundreds of years. Excited to see that it also includes recent history too and how they tie that together. Okay. I'm going, y'all. I'm going. We have Nella Larson Passing. Penguin Classic version. I used to have this book. Literally, I kid you not, it was in the same box. These books, I'm telling you, I don't know what happened. The box fell off the truck, okay? This is a really good book. It was first published in 1929 too, just like The Black of the Berry, published in 1929. But yeah, it's about a Black woman passing, obviously. They actually have a kind of new movie about this too. It's not. Okay. It's telling me that the battery low, so I'm gonna hurry up. We have Robert Frost's early poems. This is a really good book because it has a lot of the poems collected. I haven't read all of Robert Frost's poems, but I've read quite a bit. I haven't read all of Robert Frost's poems, but I've read quite a bit because I had a dedicated class. I liked it enough that I wanted to get it for my shelves to put with my classic poetry. So there's that. And I'm down to one stack. I'm almost done. We have Genghis Khan, The Making of the Modern World by Jack Weatherford. I don't know much about Genghis Khan outside of what I've seen in TVs and movies and a little bit I learned in my history class. But I'm interested, so I got this because I want to know about the Mongol Empire. Yeah, that's that. Next, we have Unpublished Black History from the New York Times Archives. And this is gorgeous. I was just scrolling through Amazon actually and saw this and was like, look at Shirley Chisholm. Albany, Georgia, Harlem. I just wanted to get it. It's beautiful. Okay. Yeah, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I don't know. I mean, I've never read the actual book. I've read kids' books that's based on Frankenstein, seen plenty of movies, but I wanted to get this because it's a classic. We also have The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I've read this book, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like it at all. At all. This is a book that talks about Chinese military tactics and how they can be applied to life, relationships, goals, things like that. And I didn't like it. But when I was talking to somebody, she was like, well, who was it? It was a couple. They were like, yeah, I didn't like it at first, but then I read it again. It was very helpful and eye opening. Like, please read it again. So I'm once again here with this. If I do end up liking it the second time, I'll be shocked. But I'm gonna give it a try because everybody seems to like this book but me. So I'm gonna try it again. Then we have Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave by Frederick Douglass. I already have a copy of this book, but I'm gonna give that copy to my kids, so I needed my own. There's that. We also have Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kwong or R. Kwong. This book I already did a post about or uploaded my review about, but I didn't have the physical copy. And I really wasn't going to get the physical copy because I just didn't want it. But I have all of her other books so far. And then this was on sale. So if it's on sale, it's only right to get it. Then we have Medical Apartheid, A Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present by Harriet A. Washington. This kind of follows the theme of like that, a few of the other books that I've already mentioned, but just some history that we don't hear about that much. Outside of The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, I've never read a book with this kind of subject matter, so I wanted to get this, and I got it. Okay, more about like forgotten history. They Were Her Property, White Women as Slave Owners in American South by Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. This book just kind of brings forth to your attention that white men weren't acting alone. It wasn't like people kind of, in their head, white women are more innocent than probably they were during the time of slavery. So this kind of talks about that. Excited to read it. Two more, y'all. MH Chaos, the CIA's campaign against the radical new left and the Black Panthers. This book I'm excited to read because I know very little about this operation. I know enough to know it existed, and I've watched some documentaries that mention it briefly though. So I haven't read anything that's this comprehensive or in depth about it, and I'm excited. It's actually written from somebody like an operative who was actually part of the operation that was targeting the Black Panthers. So excited about that. Last book, last one. The Have Has Never Been Told: Slavery and the Making of American Capitalism. Look at that. So this book, what interested me about this is it talks about how when people view slavery, they only leave it in the time of like active slavery, not mentioning how like slavery laid the roots for what is American capitalism today, including how they completely just revamped the entire coast to make it the cotton production like powerhouse that it is, and they don't get credited, kind of trying to erase, once again, like going back to these books that I was talking about, kind of like erasing Black people from what America is today. So it's a thick one, but I'm excited about it. And y'all, I'm finished. I got through, and I hope y'all didn't fall asleep on me. This is it. We're going to get back to the regularly scheduled program. I don't have any of the books in the book haul. I won't be buying many books. Well, at least not in large quantities like this. I might buy one off. You got to support your local bookstores and stuff. But since I got through so quick, let me know if you read any of these. That's it. That's it, y'all. Y'all have a great day or night or whatever time you're watching this. Let me know if you've read these. Let me know which one of these I should read first. If there's one that really stuck out to you, Let me know. Okay, see y'all.